possible numbers that have an absolute value of 7 would be -7 or +7. Or I should say and, but it's fine. Okay, so if my absolute value is -4, which numbers are -4 spaces away from 0? Okay, think about this for me. When you were talking about your height or something, so I'm like 5'8"-ish, 5'7", I don't know, somewhere in there. So do you think I say, yeah, I'm negative 5'8" feet tall? No. When I go to the store, it's like -1 mile away. In the same way, would you say that you have -4 spaces? We're talking about a distance, okay? So we wouldn't want to say I have -4 spaces. I understand you can go down 4 in a number line. We're counting how many spaces away it is from 0. It's not -4 spaces away. It should be 4. So should you have an absolute value that's equal to a negative? Never, ever, ever. If you have an absolute value that's equal to a negative, that's not possible because we should be counting positive spaces. So not possible. What are the possible values? None. You can't have negative distance, or how do you want to say this? Have negative spaces from 0. However you want to say it, negative distance. Maybe I'll say that. All right, I got to switch my stylus. I'm just going to show you kind of an example, and then you can tell me what steps we need to do first. We want the bars to be alone. So for example, something like this, I'm just going to make up something. How about x minus 3 is equal to 10? Notice on this example, the bars are the only thing on the left side. That's it. All right, use your brain. What two numbers have an absolute value of 10? -10? 10. So there are two numbers that could have 10 spaces away from 0 on either side, right? So I then split it up into two equations. We'll say this one's equal to -10. So the inside of that absolute value could be equal to -10, or it could be equal to +10. Sorry, that's kind of on the line. And then you just solve those equations, right? So if I add 3, I'm not going to do this one in detail, but if I add 3, I would then get -7 and 13. If you want to add the steps, all I did was add 3 to both sides. What did I do on the right one? Do you see what I did? I put it after the equal sign. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, let's fix that. Hopefully you did it right on your paper and weren't weird with that. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Sorry. Okay. So let's talk about the steps here. When we're solving an absolute value equation, which again is new for you, the first thing you need to check for me is, do you see how I've highlighted the bars here? I did it in yellow, but that's not just really showing up. You need to make sure that those absolute value bars are isolated. What does it mean to be isolated? So it means to be like alone. So isolate, that's the term that you'll hear me use, and I'm going to use that vocab. Isolate the absolute value bars. They need to be alone on that side. So as long as they are the only thing on that side of the equal sign, you're good. And you'll see some examples today that are not. So isolate the absolute value bars. Second thing, what's the second thing I did? Once the bars were alone, you talk to your table. What's it? Split it, right? Split it into two equations. These are your notes, so if you want to say it a little bit differently, you can. Remember, we're talking about two equations, one positive. You'll usually see me do the negative positive, like negative on the left, positive on the right. Okay, and then we solve both equations. Okay. To see if the bars are alone or isolated. Are the bars, look on the left side, are the bars isolated over there? Yeah, they're the only thing. You'll see, like, I'm trying to look at an example. Look at number 5 and 6 on this page. Do you see how there's other stuff on that side? On number 5 and 6, they're not isolated, so that's why you have to do something first. On number 3, it is isolated, so that means you can go ahead and right away split it. There are two numbers that have an absolute value of 6. They are 6 and negative 6. I'm always going to put the negative one on the left. That way my answers are smallest to largest. The reason for that is because when we get into inequalities later this week, it's going to be kind of annoying if your bigger value is on the left. Okay? So for that sake, that's why I'm doing it. Okay, and then solve these. I'm going to maybe call on you at random so I can get your names like concrete in my head. Lauren, what do you think I should do to get rid of the 4? Yeah, and you're doing the same thing to all your equations, so just, all the way across. You can do what you want. So you should get negative 2. You can use a calculator if you need to, and 10. Yeah? If you want, you can write this as a comma list, like this, negative 2, comma 10. That's also fine. I will take either. Does not matter. Okay, you can write it as comma list or as separate answers. Look at number 4. Can you check for me, is that isolated currently? Yep, is the only thing on that side of the equal sign, and so go ahead and split it up. But wait. What numbers have an absolute value of negative 5 spaces from 0? None. No. We don't do negative 5 spaces because spaces are counted in positive, so psych, don't actually do that. Sorry if you're writing pen. No, this is not possible. As you may imagine, you say no solutions. That's a technical term. Don't just say no can do. Tell me no solutions because you cannot have negative 5 spaces from 0. If you want to explain it, they're your notes. Okay? And that is because of this right here. It was equal to a negative. I had bars equal to a negative. We don't like this. So then what's the difference on number 5? Because we have a negative again. So is it no solutions? No. Okay, you don't know yet. And it would be not a good idea to assume right now. The first thing you have to do is get the bars alone. And then you can decide if it's still equal to a negative, then you would have a problem. But right now, you don't know for sure yet, so let's see. Are the bars isolated? No. And I know that because this might help you put a balancing line. You see there's other stuff over here. You've got that minus 7, and so you have to move the minus 7 first before you can carry on. Calvin, what do I do with the minus 7? And so now, watch the magic. So now, it actually is not going to be negative anymore. So please be careful. And don't assume there's going to be no solutions until you get to this step where the bars are actually alone. Okay? Now it's all alone. That's the only thing on the left side. You are good. Okay? All right, so you can go ahead and split it up. I think I should have written smaller. 2 equations. I'll put the negative 1 on the left. You can do that if you want, or do the other way. 3x plus 9 is equal to positive 3, because 2 numbers, both negative 3 and positive 3, have an absolute value of 3. Okay, go ahead and solve it. See if you can get that on your own. Okay. Okay, you did it correctly if you got 2 things. Let's see. I got negative 4 and negative 2. Again, you can write it as a comma list if you want, negative 4, comma, negative 2. But you're just solving each equation. If you want to do it completely separately, like do one at a time, that's fine. We're going to do it all together. I distribute The 4. Can you talk about that at your table? What do you think? Should we distribute?
No. Is it 2 and 7?
Don't distribute into the absolute value. So then the question is, what do you do with the 4? It's positive. Should I subtract it? What operation do you have right here? 4 is right next to the bars. What operation is that in math when you have things side by side? Multiplication. And how do you undo multiplication? Division. So you actually divide by 4 on both sides, which does cancel this guy out so that the bars can be alone. Hooray. 2x plus 7 is equal to 4. Now your absolute value bars are isolated. We love it. And you can split it up and solve. Okay? Two numbers have an absolute value of 4. What are they? 4 and negative 4. Okay, so I'll do negative 4 on the left. I think you're going to get some fun fractions this time. When you are solving, if you are uncomfortable with fractions, most of the time, your work, if you're actually writing down your work will show you what the fraction should be without very little thought. Okay, so that's negative 11. And when I go to divide by 2, I type that in my calculator. It gets me, I think, negative 5.5, right? Which is not the worst thing in the world. And I think Delta Math will even take that, but I kind of hate it. So please don't. This is your answer. It's already simplified. Those numbers are prime, and so you're done. That's one of your answers, and then the same thing will happen over here. It will basically tell you what the fraction is if you just show your work. 2x equal negative 3, and then if you divide by 2, you should see the fraction right in front of your face. Because that cancels out, and you're left with this, negative 3 halves. So your two answers here should be, I'm going to write it as a comma list this time, negative 11 halves, negative 3 halves. Okay? But if you're on your calculator, my calculator should have a fraction button, F to D, that convert it really quickly back to a fraction. Okay? Minus 9 first. Negative 4. Yep. Oh shoot, what is that? Quick math. Negative 24? Do you add 4 to get rid of it? No, it's multiplication, so you should divide. Then your bars will be alone. So I end up getting positive 6, which is why you should wait until this step to decide if it's going to work or not. Because now that I have the absolute value equal to a positive, I know that I'm good and I can split it up. So finish that one up. You can check it with the board when you're done. And then I'd like you to talk at your table about this last one, which is how many solutions do you think that would have for when it's equal to 0? So it would have 1 because only 0 is 0 spaces from 0. I don't know. You can explain it if you want. That's redundant. You don't need to write it out. Then don't write it out. It's fine. So you are then solving this. The bars are isolated. We love it. So go ahead and solve. You just need to set 14x minus 5 is equal to 0 and solve that, since that is the only possible absolute value. Okay? That would get me 14x equal to 5. And again, as you're doing fractions, you should see the fraction right in front of you. You don't need to do anything crazy. You can check it on your calculator and see if it divides evenly. It's not going to. But it tells you right there, 5/14. You're done.